How's it going, everyone? Welcome to the weekly trading review for the past 2 weeks. I'm back from vacation, so I'm going to cover the last 2 weeks of trades. I didn't really take any trades while I was on vacation. I just had some trades that either hit a target or they expired worthless, so I'll cover those first, and then we're going to get into the trades that I took this week. So, as always, we'll go over the swing trades first, the day trades, and then some of the open positions. But before we get into that, I'm going to talk about the market for the past 2 weeks. So, since the 15th here, you can see that the market has been pretty flat. We had the FOMC 2 weeks ago on that Wednesday, fairly muted reaction. The Fed had a 25-point basis cut, which was mostly priced in. The market had a nice rally into that number before it kind of compressed. And then we got a nice little push and pop here early in the beginning of this week that then got pulled back or I guess got faded. We had a pullback down over here to the 15 EMA, which for some reason is always off my charts when I record these videos. So I am going to add that right here. You can see how that has provided sort of another little line of support here. Market spends very little time below that level. You can see that it closed right on it today, and it pushed above it. Sorry, right on Thursday, pushed above it on Friday. But yeah, it doesn't spend a lot of time below that level. It's been pretty much above that level until the summer over here, where the price action has been bullish, but a little bit weaker since the move that we got kind of over here. And you can see that we're still continuing that uptrend, but not as strong in the way up. We get a little bit of a deeper retracement down, marginal new high, a little deeper retracement down. Got a nice push into FOMC, compressed for a while here, and those little compressions after that pop, after making new highs, usually when you want to start taking gains on your longs, and then the market is going to pull back. So right now, as we close this week, I think this is a really nice opportunity to get into some longs. And I think yesterday was a great opportunity to get into some longs. Thursday, if you wanted to be a little bit more aggressive, you could have gone to some longs, or maybe some out of the money put credit spreads, or maybe some short puts that you could scale into those kind of trades. So I think today and maybe early on Monday we'll have some opportunities to get long. But yeah, once this is set up here, this is pretty much our window, and I believe the market should push to an all-time high. And after these dips, we usually get a nice. Here's a dip here, a couple days, 3 or 4 days of price action here, dip. One day we'll pull back here, so this is about a week of price action. After this is a bigger dip, so we got a stronger leg of price action for about a week and a half. So this isn't a really big one, but we'll probably get, my guess is another 2, maybe 3 days of buying from that as we continue to grind up. So let's go over the trades that I closed out in the first week. First one was Netflix. This was a 919, 1265, 1270 out of the money CDS that I had taken. Taking it on this breakout candle on the 4th over here. And stock looked pretty good. Here was a setup on the 4th. I did have this bullish channel here. I wasn't super worried about this high plus trend line. But pull back over here. I figured it had room to fill in this gap. Netflix did push up a little bit here, but couldn't quite get maybe above this level potentially, even though it's not really a high volume candle. But yeah, kind of struggled around this area over here, around 1265-ish or so. And then we got this long red candle on the 11th that pretty much killed the trade. And it was still technically valid, but this stock has kind of just been chopping around at or below its SMAs over here, which are sort of compressing. So this trade expired worthless for a full loss. So that expired last week. The other one that I had was CDNS. So this trade, I took it over here, pushed up a little bit. Then we got some big down negative catalyst on, I think it was Snaps. There was some related earnings on that guy, which I think dragged that whole sector down. So it pulled back, but I mean, I was still in the trade. My max loss was capped anyways because there's another out of the money CDS, 365, 370. So it pulled back over here. I was waiting for it, and then it kind of chopped around. And at this point, I was like, all right, the spread's probably toast. So if I get a nice pop, I'm going to try to get, try to get out for a small loss. So I got out on the 18th for a 25% loss. I wasn't really able to watch the position over here. And actually ended up being in profit the next day, which is a crazy turnaround. I was not expecting that. But, it happens. And then obviously it's some resistance here and came back down and is back in this compression range. So quite a ride on CDNS. I think it would have eventually hit this over here. But I had 2 weeks out, so I didn't have a ton of time on this trade. So those are two losses I took on the prior week. Let's go over to this week. So a couple of trades that I was in. First one was UNH. So I'd taken it all the way back here, added to the position here, and then I took partial profits on the 12th here on Friday because I thought I could get past 360, maybe push into 370. It didn't quite do it. So I took partial gains, pulled back over here, found some support at the 8, and then when it popped up and hit some resistance over here at 351, I took the remaining gains. So overall in the trade, let me find this setup on UNH. So it was a 926, 350, 360 out of the money CDS. I took it initially for 380. I added it at 325 on this dip over here. So the average was 357. Total risk was about 1.5x of my max loss. So I took half the position off at 450 over here and the other half at 403. So overall profits were about 150. So maybe about a 25% gain overall in the trade. Post-mortem on this was that it actually hit my target and I was up 60%. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to push this to 100%. And then it didn't pan out. So I sort of went against my rule. I got a little bit greedy on this guy. Figured it could push over here and it didn't. So I ended up taking some smaller profits along the way. All right. So that was UNH. Next trade I was in was Run. So I'd taken this on this break. I had broken out here. I got it on a pullback over here on the 8th. So I got in at $4. I'd taken the 1017. Where is this guy? The 1017 14 calls for $4. Pulled back, just chopping around here, right? Doing absolutely nothing. So I was like, all right, it's chopping around here. It's not really able to push back. So on the next pop, I'm just going to set a target to try to get out for a scratch. And then on the 22nd, it popped up early in the day. And if I go over here, you'll see that. Yep, here is the... No, that's the gap up. Where's the 22nd? Cool. All right, so that intraday data is missing. That's great. Anyways, it popped up on the 22nd, and I got out for 405. So basically took a $5 scratch win on that guy. Got out of the trade. You can see it's been pretty much flatlined over here. It might break out, it might not break out, but hasn't really been doing much. So got out of the trade, and it wasn't really able to rally much with the market here. Right here's the 8th and the 9th. You can see that tick from the 5th to the 22nd. Here's the market from the 5th to the 22nd. So I was pretty much got the market totally right. Run did not participate, which tells me that there's some resistance on the stock, and I need to get out of the trade. Okay. Next couple here, AFRM. So this was another out of the money CDS. I took this over here on the 4th. So had earnings, came back, tested the gap, and had some nice bounce reaction up over here to about 91. I figured I had a chance to maybe push to 100, so I had the 95 100 CDS for 138. And afterwards, the stock kind of flatlined here. You see this hit some resistance at this point, and then it came back and was trying to push up higher, ended up testing this resistance again. So I did have my chance to maybe get out of the trade at this point, but I chose not to. I chose to stick to it, considering it broke through this high plus trend line over here, but was unable to do so. And then it was looking honestly pretty good until here. Like, this is still sort of fine, although it's not really the best price action. It's really choppy. And then the stock pretty much, pulled back and broke over here. So took the loss on AFRM this week, max loss over here. Completely tanked after this dub. It's pretty much a triple top here, if you want to count this earnings reaction. But it had some stiff resistance around 92, and then it's actually setting up for a pretty decent short, I would say, if I'm looking long term here. Probably breaking through some low minus trend lines here. I'll have to check the daily chart for some horizontal levels coming up. Maybe over here, potentially could be one. But yeah, so that's AFRM. Getting some of those losses out of the way. And then the last one, I took this trade this week, which was Shop. And I did take a CDS on Shop. I took the 50. Let me check over here. I took the 157 to 160 CDS for $1. I took it on the close on this day. And, yep, you can see here, it closed pretty much right above this high volume resistance at this level here. But next day, tanked hard, and it could not recover. And then it pretty much came back down, back into the range, and then it tested the 50 SMA, and it kind of held there. So definitely some resistance here at this 157 level. And, you know, probably got a little bit ahead of it. But I think over here, I was like, all right, look, this is a pretty decent setup. It broke through this high, but looks like it didn't, like, it kind of poked through it. It didn't really break through it hard. That was maybe one of the warning signs on Shop here. It didn't totally confirm that level. And if I look at the price action on the 22nd here, let's see if where I messed up here. So there is, yep. Oh, is it not showing it? Okay, that data is missing. So I'm actually, maybe I'll pull up the trading view here. Yep, so there's the break over that level. Yep, there's a break over that level. And then it pulled back over here, but it actually never bounced and made a new high over that level, which was maybe the clue. So I took it over here end of day. Actually, I should probably put this crosshair tool. Yeah. So I took it over here end of day on Shop. And there was some good volume coming into this. So it was a pretty nice orderly trend. But typically for me to see confirmation, I need to see a break, a retest of that level, and then a new high with relative strength. And then that's how I know that we're good, and then I can take the trade. So I didn't see that. So that's probably the mistake I made on this guy over here, that it, yeah, pulled back over here, tested this level, some support at 152, broke through it pretty quickly, and then, yeah, just kind of been cratering down over here, and a lot of selling coming in on this guy. So, yeah, that is Shop there. And I believe those were all of the swings that I had closed this week. I'm checking again. Yep, those were all of the swings. That closed the last 2 weeks. So definitely the last 2 weeks, the swings have been negative. So overall profits for the total 2 weeks was minus $1,144.33. On the swings, I was minus $1,150.55. 2 wins and 4 losses on those. And then the day trades I took this week, up $6, $6.20, 6 wins and 0 losses. So total 2 week trades combined 10 and 4. But yeah, the 4 losses on the swings did really hurt me, because I took 3 max losses and one partial loss. And I'm looking at some of the losses here. I think a lot of them could have been a lot more avoidable. I think with AFRM, knowing that this stock had some resistance here, I should have gotten out probably on that resistance. On Netflix, sometimes it's a good trade that happens. I'm not super bummed about this trade. And I think on Shop, I didn't confirm that level higher. So that definitely bit me this week as it pulled back down. The other thing over here on the 22nd was it was not relatively strong to the market. So it was better off sinking some of this with a market pullback. So if I waited for a market pullback, I probably would have avoided shop, and then when it didn't bounce with the market, right, or it didn't hold up really well, I wouldn't even have taken the trade to begin with. So that kind of takes you out of a lot of bad trades. All right, so let's go over the day trades this week. So I had pretty much 6 day trades this week. First one here is TAP. We'll get this chart to load. All right, so here is TAP. So I took TAP. I believe I took it on the 23rd. So I didn't take any trades on the 22nd. It was my first day back from vacation. I didn't take any day trades. I was sort of out of it, like adjusting the sleep schedule. I had a little bit of jet lag. I was kind of tired from all the traveling and just the trip in general. So pretty much took that whole day to kind of rest and, just get my bearings and not like really do anything. Is what I usually do after trips. So I take a day just to chill. So obviously it was a pretty nice day in the market. Lot of buying. Yeah, a lot of nice buying. And I was like, all right, look, I missed a good day, but another day will come back up. So 23rd, we saw some selling in the market, and I'm going to flip to the M5 chart now so we can kind of compare a little better and see what's going on. So we had this flat day, and then the market started to actually have a nice steady leak lower in that day. So let's look at TAP. You can see quite weak on the daily chart, pretty strong trend, and it broken through this pivot low, as well as broken through this high plus trend line over here. So this stock was a great setup and a lot of volume coming in on these last couple of levels. So there's all right, cool. So it looks like the 22nd is also missing there, but there was a bearish trend day over here. Had a small gap up, and then it broke through the low of the day, pretty much on this candle right here. Maybe I can pull it up. I'll pull it up on here. Maybe we can evaluate it. There we go. So yeah, I'm not sure. Some of that 22nd data is missing, which is strange, but I don't know if it's a tradier issue or not. Yeah, so here's TAP on the 22nd, or a pretty steady grinder. Closed very bearish on that day, so that was the first big tell for me. Second day, TAP gapped up, and then it quickly got through the low of the day on this long red candle. So I got in on TAP. It was day trade short 2 shares. I got in at a little bit of a better bid at 44.80. Stock had to compress a little bit and had to wait for this 8 EMA to catch up to it, which is this pink line. So once that 8 EMA caught up, and actually let me double check. It's with an EMA, right? Yeah, it is. Okay, so when that 8 EMA caught up to it, then it could stage this next leg lower, and it took gains at 44.55. So it took 25 cents on that trade, 25 cents a share, and that was a nice little win. And I took this early. If you look at early in the day, right, on SPY, this SPY's market's pretty flat, and it's like kind of compressing. So I'm like, all right, look, market's flat, stock is down. So if I get a little bit of market tailwind, I should be good over here. And yeah, I got that little bit of market tailwind. And then when I hit my profit target, I was out of the trade. At that point, it was still fairly LPTE for that day. Right, it was a little bit bearish, but it wasn't like super strong. I didn't know if we would pop up to make a new high. Maybe we would dip lower. Maybe we would just chop around. So it was still LPTE at that point. And I had to trade accordingly. So I set my targets pretty passive and, took a nice win on that trade. Next trade I took. So I think that was the only trade I took on the 23rd. But let's go to the 24th. I took one trade on Tesla. I'll close this now. So here's Tesla on the 24th. It had probably broken above this prior high over here, but strong chart after this really big breakout of compression on the 12th. Massive move here. And yeah, kind of chopping, digesting some of these gains. I have an alert set here, so when it breaks out, that's going to set up for a pretty nice leg higher. A lot of mags have actually been looking pretty strong on this pullback, just as a aside. Like here's Apple. Actually, I'm not sure about Meta. I think Meta's been pretty weak. Yeah, Meta's not been good. Nvidia, by the way, is going to be a pretty nice breakout when this happens. You can see that we have a lot of tests at this level. We're holding these gains well. So I think if we break through this, maybe get some good seasonality in our favor in October and November, I think a nice year-end long could set up probably to 200. But anyways, in Tesla, and let's go to this chart on the, here's the 23rd. So here is Tesla on the 24th. So market gapped up, moving back down. Tesla gap up, pushing up a little bit higher. Excuse me. Find some support, and at this point, market is at some support over here. So I was like, all right, we're bouncing a little bit here. We got to see if, this was kind of a big move that happened fast, and we kind of meat grinded for the rest of the day. So is this going to be support? Are we going to break a little bit lower? Let's see. So I got in here. Tesla pushed up a little bit higher. Or sorry, SPY kind of stalled up over here. So I got in on Tesla at 437.50. So I got in, I bid. We got this nice candle here that closed at 438.24. I bid into this candle at 437.50, so I got filled. Probably could have gotten at 437, to be honest, at the halfway point. That would have been a nice fill. And then I was like, all right, I'm going to kind of push it a little bit higher. So wait for this here, and the next candle, Tesla moved up $2, and I took my $2 on Tesla. So it was just kind of a quick little trade on a strong stock that had some decent little momentum, had some good volume and a decent trend early in the day that I could ride on. SPY also stalled here, so that was a nice little quick trade on a, again, good D1 chart and a nice little intraday momentum over here. And that was it. I was just waiting. The next day, later in the day, stock market pull back, just watching it a little bit. And the other trade I took was QURE. Massive pop over here. I think there was some clinical trial. Yeah, there was some clinical trial positive catalyst on here. So there's a lot of bullish news on this guy. It had popped up earlier in the day. And there was a nice probably entrance on a high of the day break. Maybe it started to get above VWAP over here. Break out of this compression. So there was a nice maybe setup somewhere kind of around here. You could take some gains into at $50, and then it pulled back to VWAP, and then we got this nice bullish candle over here. So I got long on this candle in QRE at 45.45. So I got long, somewhere kind of around here, QRE, and I was looking just for $1.50 on this guy. I wasn't looking for a lot, but yeah, we're just looking for maybe like $1.50. So pulled back. And then it started to rise up higher. You can see how it held up really well relative to SPY. So if I look at, here's the stock at 220, and here's SPY at 220. Pull back over here, and then started to find some support. And this stock really is really doing its own thing because it's biotech and massive news. So I could kind of ignore the market. As long as the market's not totally falling apart, I can just watch the cycles of QURE. And then once it starts to find support, I can trade that and, take a nice win. So took a nice $1.50 on this guy, got in at 45.45, got out at 45.95, kind of on this candle over here. So quick trade, about 30 minutes, but that was a nice little win. Okay, next day, 25th, I took 3 trades. So let's look at this day on the 25th. Market had a gap down and then a snap back over here, and then another gap down. Kind of a choppy, say a pretty choppy range day where we big gap down test, try to smack back up, sellers push it back down, make a marginally low, and then buyers really come back strong, push it back at VWAP, and we close pretty much right at the open to make this sort of high volume doji on the D1. So took a couple of trades that day, 2 longs. I took two trades that day that I'll talk about. First one was Lilly. This stock had rallied up on a really pretty bearish earnings reaction here, back up to the 50 SMA, 100 SMA, kind of stalled over here. Also some high volume horizontal resistance. Came back down, broke through the EMAs and the 50 SMA on some pretty heavy volume. So Lilly was a really nice bearish stock. And you can see how it's just a steady grinder this whole day. So market had gapped down and was kind of pushing up higher. You can see Lily was hugging the low of the day while the market rallied. So I just needed the market to start falling apart. So Lily got this break over here early and to stay here at 12:45. So I took it at 7:18 right here on this 12:45 candle. Now usually I do bid at the 8 EMA, but if I look at the setup on SPY, here's at 12:45. Here's it at 12:45. So yeah, SPY pretty much rolling over here. And at this point, it was like, look, it could bounce up here and break up higher, but I felt that it was more likely that we could probably test the downside here because bears have control, right? And we're very likely to make some push to the low of the day today. It's a lot harder, I think. Like, this is some decent selling pressure. It's lasted probably, 2-ish days. So, we're probably going to make a move to the low of the day. And this could happen on this candle, this move here. So this could be Lily about to take off here, or it could pull back and make another leg lower. So that's why I chose to get in it here at 7:18. So stock had pulled back a little bit, right? Pull back to the EMA 8 over here. There's another entry point where I could have added to the trade at 120. My market, kind of compressing, and as it's falling apart over here. This is when Lily starts to come down. And then my plan was when Lily made a new low of the day, I would take some gains. So it did make that new low of the day around 145. So in the close of this candle, I took gains at 716.79. So I took $1.21 gains. I was really targeting $2, which it did eventually hit. And I actually ended up hitting this some support over here at 715, which I had on the daily chart. So I didn't want to press my luck as it was getting close to that support level. But yeah, market ended up kind of falling apart. These last couple of candles got a little bit extended. Here, what candle is this? This is the 2 o'clock candle, yeah. So 2 o'clock candle, and actually held up pretty well on this initial bounce. But yeah, so a nice little day trade. Took $1.21 over there. The other trade I took on that day was MSTR. As a short, it had broken through this compression, and it hit some. There was going to be some support here at 300. So MSTR, again, you can see this nice bearish trend pull back, fell lower, pull back, and then I got in pretty much right around here at 105. So I got in at 303.17, sorry, as this stock was starting to break down. And I knew there's going to be support at the low of the day, 301, and also at around 300. So I was like, all right, I can probably take a quick buck on MSTR, and that's what I targeted. So I got in over here, and I got out over here at 302.17, took $1 on that trade. And that was that. So that was MSTR. Last day on Friday, app was the long I took. So super nice daily chart, a lot of grinders. And you can see that this is probably a nice one where you can just get in on dips, right? Like if I just zoom out on this chart, that day's a little choppy, obviously. But this is a stock that, and these grinders too, there's like kind of a lot of overlap in this stock, which is what you want for a daily grinder, right? Kind of a lot of medium-sized candles where they don't get too crazy, but they're sort of slowly making highs every day. So you can see that, look, it moves up, pulls back, moves up, pulls back, right? So on these pullbacks over here, pull back, right, starts to break above these highs here. This is where you can get long. This is a nice buy signal. You can take gains as it pushes to a new high of the day. But there's a lot of nice opportunities in this stock where you could probably just day trade this stock pretty much this entire month and do well. Because, again, it just pulls back, finds support and then launches up, right? You can take gains over there. So this is a great one, I think, to sink your teeth into on a day trading basis. If you're not super comfortable swinging, you can just sort of get in and out of the trade, and you can find opportunities to get on this. So that was a nice one. But, yeah, today it was kind of a steady grinder. On Friday, I should say, market fairly flat, but it held up really well during this dip. And then when the market found some support at 1220, you can see how the stock broke through a new high of the day. So that's when I got in over here on a dip because I knew that this is a stock where it breaks up higher, and then it checks that open of that candle. So I got in close to the open at 662. And then stock kind of chopped around a little bit over here. You can see the market was rallying higher, and then app wasn't doing much. So I scratched out of the trade at 662.01 on this candle over here at 1010 at 110. Pulled back to VWAP, tested it, and then when it broke above this candle over here and closed above it at 130, this is actually another nice entry point where you could get long. I saw this, but I wasn't super comfortable with the market at this time because it was rubbing up against the AVWAP E, this gap fill resistance over here, as well as the all-time high AVWAP. These were all pretty much colliding at the 660, 150-ish level here that the market was stalling at. So I figured that, I'm going to wait and not get on this. So missed this trade, but, still took my classic 1 cent scratch on this guy. So pretty happy with the day trading this week, and it's been pretty good as I've restarted my 1 share challenge 7 weeks in. Yeah, so let's go into the open trades this week now that I've gone through the day trade. So first one is GLW. I took it end of day over here, the 23rd. So this stock was holding up pretty well while the market had pulled back. So market pulled back over here. GLW held up pretty well. Pulled back a little bit to the 8 and the 15 over here, holding that today. And then now market's starting to find some support. So I believe in this next cycle higher, GLW should be able to push up higher. But yeah, so on this one, I had taken, let me see, taken the 10-17 75 calls for 675. It's a little bit higher than what I usually like, but last couple trades, I've been feeling pretty good in terms of the dollar amount for the trade. So I've taken a couple at $600 of max risk, so about a 2% versus a 1.5%. But yeah, mentally I feel totally fine. So I decided that I was kind of okay with this setup because it was a really good setup, and I figured all right, I can probably swing this a little bit over here on GLW. Now it did hit probably some high volume candle, resistance support coming up over here. A lot of volume coming in on this stock, so I'd want to see this this stuff sort of break pretty easily on this next leg higher. So I'm in GLW. I'll talk about bull last because that is a longer term one here. I took CN on Friday on CN. So this one I did take an out of the money CDS here. I took the 10-17 145 150 CDS. There's a lot of OI at 150, so I figured it had a chance to get through that. ATR is about $5, so that's a 2 ATR move that it could make. It's also starting to break out of this compression. Now, it did hit a high plus trend line today that it reacted off at. But what I liked about it was that it came back and tested through this level. It poked above here, and it basically made a new high of the day on relative strength and pretty good volume. So I liked what I saw here. We got this pullback that held at VWAP and kind of stalled out. So I like the setup on CN, and it's really one of the stronger daily charts here. So it could grind up. Maybe it pops up higher. Maybe it sort of chops around, but I have until 10-17, so I have 3 weeks on this to, kind of see what it does. So open CN. The other one I opened was Joby. Had this nice breakout over here on the 19th, which is a nice move, and then it kind of tested and held on the 22nd. So when did I take Joby here? Oh, actually, let me filter this to open. Cool. So I took this on the 23rd. This is all contested. The 50 SMA pushed up higher and actually made a new high back into this range over here. The other thing on Joby, I guess if I pull up this chart, is sorry, kind of a bit of a crazy chart here. I'm gonna take off all these where's these high volume lines here. So broken through this trend line here, and also this is probably the highest AVWAP that it had over here. So it broken through that level, and it's kind of holding that. So I do want to see it start to confirm above that level, but it had broken, it tested it, and then popped back higher. So that gave me some confidence to stay in the trade. However, it's still sort of chopping around that, so I do want to see it kind of move above it a little bit higher. Okay, so that was Joby's. That was the other trade I took this week, and then I took IREN. So this was actually my first out of the money short put. So this is a really strong stock. I believe it's a financial kind of crypto, Bitcoin type deal. So I sold the 1017.35 puts for $1.75, which is a 10% return on Reg T margin. Which basically, if I'm putting up, if it's $35 strike price, I got to put up half the strike price in reserve. So that's 1750 times 100. So that's $1,750 I have to put in on margin. And my return is $1.75 or $175. So it's a 10% return in 3 weeks. If it expires worthless, and then if I do buy it, right, falls below that, then I'm basically getting in at a price at $33.25, which brings me right at this breakout candle. That basically says, hey, look, I want to buy this stock on a breakout, right? And this is where it broke out. This was, I mean, it's a little overextended, but it's not a terrible entry point, pretty decent entry point. Or you can maybe get it in on this day here as it gets a little bit less overextended. But then it pushes up higher. So looks good. I got the 8 EMA, I got the 15, and I got the AVWAP E to lean on for this stock. Probably also got some high plus, some low plus trend lines, maybe a channel coming into play over here. Maybe here, something like that are forming. So I got some of those to lean on. And also just the strength of this trend. Nice organized price action, pretty heavy volume. So yeah, that was IREN, and then I got CRWV as an open trade that I am in. This one is kind of a doozy. So I took this originally as a day trade at $37. Let's get into over here. So I took it. It was looking good over here. I got in on a dip. My plan was to take maybe $1 on this. Stock pulled back pretty hard to the 8 EMA, and I saw Dave take a PCS on this, which I thought was a pretty good way to cover this, considering that you have a lot of IV. He took the 110, 105 PCS, so I'm pretty good out of the money on 1017. And you can see that this stock, it is pushing up higher, right? So it's sort of chopping around, and there's certainly some resistance here, so you don't want to get out here. But hit some resistance and pulled back to that 100-day moving average, as well as the EMA 15, as well as some high volume support coming in at 119.50. So here is CRWV. Pull back over here, test, push back up here, test, and then it found some support on this level. We're going to have to wait and see if it's able to pop back up or if it's going to keep going down. But yeah, I'm still in this trade, and I covered basically that that day trade with a PCS. So I'm kind of lumping that into one trade because I'm sort of making the same play in the same stock. And on the shares, if it rises back up to that price, I'm going to scratch the shares and take profits on the CDS at on the PCS at 137. And if it pulls back and it starts to break through, then I can consider maybe taking the loss on this. But it'd have to break through 105. And yeah, there's just a ton of support on this guy. And I think it's more likely to kind of chop around at least and maybe push up higher versus totally break down. But we'll have to wait and see what happens. So that's CRWV. And then I am in Target short. So broke through over here on the 22nd, and this, you can see how the stock is sort of grinding lower, and it broke through some major support, kind of right around here at 87, and it's just kind of been compressing at that level. So I believe when the market starts to rally higher, this stock should move lower. So it's because it's a little bit divergent, a little bit of a consumer staples sector. So I believe it'll grind lower there. And on this stock, as it breaks down, it often pulls back to that 8 EMA, compresses for a couple of days, and pushes back down, compresses for a couple of days, and then maybe makes the next leg lower. So I got in on a pullback over here on the 23rd. I had taken the 1017 $90 puts for $4.20. And my target is probably $85. I don't know if it's going to get to $85. It's probably going to be a pretty big move, but we'll see what happens at the low over here. If it can break this low of the day, or if it starts to stall out here, then maybe I take a smaller profit level there. So yeah, so those are the main swings. And let's talk about bull. not CN. If I can type that right. So bull, last week, or so the week that I was out on vacation, I'd sold the 1550 puts for 11 cents, and I had an order to buy them back at 5 cents. So that order got filled last week, so I took 6 cents on that. This week I'd sold the 1550 puts for like 14 cents on this pop over here on the 22nd, and it was looking pretty good until we got this pop early in the day on Friday. And so when I got this pop, I was like, all right, I don't want this to be I don't want my short puts to be exercised, right? To still have my long puts, I'm really just using the short calls. My bad. I still got this long sort of leap call until January, and I don't want that to be exercised because I want to ride that and have when this stock rises up, then I'll take gains on that position. So it rose over here, and it was basically in risk of going in the money, right? It's it got up pretty close over here, and on the gap up, I didn't know what was going to happen, right? Market's starting to rally here. This stock is held up well. Maybe it pushes up higher. Can it break through this high minus trend line? I'm not sure. So those 1550 calls that I originally sold for 14 cents, I scratched out early in the morning for 14 cents. Just waited to see what it did. Kind of rallied over here, so then I sold the 17 calls at the end of the day. So next, I sold the 10-3 17 calls for 33 cents credit, which is a nice juicy amount of credit considering I think the IVs are rising on this guy, which is interesting. But it sort of matches the volatility and the volume that's happening. So I'm able to get some better premiums, and you can see that 17 has two things. One, it's above my long call, so if I do get exercised, then I take profits on that whole position. And two, it's above some resistance at 17 bucks. So we'll see if it can rise to it or if it sort of chops around. Not sure yet. But if it does rise to it, even if it takes all week to rise to it, I can often scratch out of the position. Right over here, I sold this 1550 calls at 14. This moves up $1.20, and I still scratch out of the position because of the time decay. So I know that I'll probably be able to scratch out of it if it moves up really strongly. If it doesn't move up really strongly, then I'll take some more premium on that guy. But right now, bull, let me see what's going on with bull. I have total premium is $1.20. So I think out of that, let's see, 1.2 divided by 6.7. Yep. So I've reduced about 18% of my cost basis, and I can probably take out a little bit more this week, depending on how these premiums are looking. So these are all the positions I have this week, and then this is pretty much last really full week of the quarter, and then last 2 days of September, and then then we'll do the Q3 recap. So I'll talk about how I did, some of the good trades, the bad trades, the strategies, what I want to keep, what I want to change for next month, and so on. So that'll take some time to analyze and digest to see what I want to pivot into for Q4. But yeah, that's it for the video today. So hope you guys are trading well, sticking with this bullish trend. I think we'll have nice opportunities to get in on these dips, and we'll see how this week pans out. So thank you for watching, everyone, and I will catch you all in the next video.